All right, so for the recording, welcome back. We are ACI Course 9, Class 7. I'd like to first announce that one of our students from the ACI evening classes, Tom Bankiki, she lives in Florida. She's a yoga teacher, very highly trained and skilled in many different aspects. She's offered to offer online yoga instruction. One-on-one or in group. I'm not exactly sure what she has in mind. She's offering by donation, and she has a flyer, an electronic flyer available for the asking. So I just wanted to share her announcement and give her email. You're welcome to ask her to see her flyer with no obligation, of course, and see what she has in mind. She's really, really skilled in in yoga, and she's learning the ACI. So she's got, right, her mindset is in that place. So her email is TOM as in mother, B as in boy, K 1991 at gmail.com. T as in Tom, O, M as in mother, B as in boy, K 1991 at gmail.com. So now it's on the recording too, so people can hear. All right, thank you. So let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. The beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that longing into that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayomi. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings awaken fully for the benefit of every single other. The last class we learned about those 5 things that cause us to lose any of our individual freedom vows. One of them is giving them back formally. Of course, we'd end up without them. Second is dying and transmigrating. When this body dies, our vows stop. Third, having both sexual organs appear on our body. So we won't do that, at least intentionally. Fourth, changing our sex 3 times or more. So don't plan on doing that either. And 5, losing our store of virtue. So really the one we want to be on our careful about is losing the store of virtue, right? The others aren't something that we do by choice. Maybe the giving the vows back, right? We think about that carefully, but it's not like something that's going to happen swiftly like losing our store of virtue could. Then there are 2 results of keeping those vows. The short-term result is human or better rebirth, which doesn't mean short-term as in next week, right? It's short-term as in next life influence. And then ultimately, long-term influence is the benefits takes us to one of those three enlightenments. And we talked about it. They mean nirvana and better. So the very basis of those individual freedom vows, either lifetime layperson vows or ordained vows, is keeping our ethical living, also known as moral discipline, which really boils down to avoiding those 10 basic deeds that come from and perpetuate certain mental afflictions that when those mental afflictions get like blown up, it becomes those whole 84,000 mental afflictions that we apparently are, can I say, imbued with, like the habits we have perpetuate these 84,000 mental afflictions through which we choose our reactions to our experiences. And, 84,000, that's a big number to work with. So those omniscient loving beings, they boil them down to the top 10. If we work carefully on avoiding these top 10, we will automatically avoid all those other 83,989, right? Do I have that number right? Without having to solve every single one of them, right? The beauty of those 10 is work on that, and the rest, takes care of itself, like the onion skin thing. The 10 are out. I don't know, how does the onion skin work on this one? That there's 84,000 within the whole onion. If we work at the outside, the outer 10, the worst 10, all the rest of the stuff, we don't have to deal with so much. Onion doesn't work there. So some other analogy, right? Where the 10 is out here and all the rest is inside. And if you don't ever crack through the 10, you're not even going to have to worry about what's inside. So those 10, Jesu Kappa goes into them in detail in his Lamrim Chenmo, and he's drawing from two of Buddha's works, more than two, but two in particular, called the chapter on the true and the sutra on 10 levels. So in there, like all of that combined, he shows us the karmic consequences associated with those 10 so that we can better understand what we experience and the real why we are experiencing versus the worldly why we are experiencing it, so that we can more wisely choose our reaction to that situation based on understanding what the deed we do as our reaction will bring us as a karmic consequence of it. So our experience in the moment is a karmic consequence of something that we did before that had something to do with one of those 10. And then that experience brings up a feeling, and we act from that feeling, and how we act plants new seeds that will be a future experience that has its unique features based on all that's going on at the moment that we did the reaction to that the current experience that is the result of some past reaction to a current experience, right? So we've heard the pattern, we know, and every time we hear about it, it sinks in a little bit deeper how our our power for change lies then in our moment by moment interactions with others. Because that's the only, right? That's the only place we have to plant those seeds is now and now and now and now. We're always in the current moment, of course. And we're as ignorant human beings, we are almost always in react mode. And what we're trying to train ourselves to do is to get off react mode and be in respond mode. Respond, I make the distinction just by react means whatever automatically comes up, we follow it. Respond means I am aware of what automatically comes up as the reaction I want to do, bless you, and I decide whether that is the reaction I want to do or not. Maybe it will be, but maybe it won't be. When we make our conscious choice, we are creating for our future. And, we can think, well, I'm creating for my next week future, and then not actually see the result and get disappointed. Or we can say, I'm creating for my future whenever it comes about. Or we can go land somewhere in between, right? I know I'm creating for my future, and I'm going to, if I have a specific future thing that I want to see come about, then I'm going to work really hard to plant lots of seeds directed towards that particular future event that I want. One just won't do it. But if we work concertedly on something that we want to see change towards high karmic objects, frequently done, right? All those factors that we've learned about how we make karmas more powerful, we could set about to see a change in something within this lifetime. And so that's the promise, but really the goal is beyond changing our immediate worldly circumstances. Our goal in our ethical discipline is reaching nirvana and Buddhahood. And yeah, we could set it up to reach those next month, but wow, would we have to get off automatic pilot to do that? So why don't set us up for failure? Let's just say, okay, there's my long-term goal, and I'm going to work diligently towards it. We need the information. We need the details of the behaviors to avoid and the behaviors to do to step into that process to set the ball rolling. So this class is about the karmic results of the 10 non-virtues in great detail. And hopefully this information, along with what we learned in the Karma course, ACI 5, and what we will learn from ACI 14, the Wheel of Knives, that has another list of karmic correlations. We can build our own little encyclopedia of karmic correlations that really gives us enough information to redesign our response repertoire. And then our task is to use it, right? To discipline ourselves to use it. So let's start. We know those 10 non-virtues. 3 of body, 4 of speech, 3 of mind: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, useless speech, coveting or jealousy, ill will, and wrong view. So each of those have a specific karmic result, a recognizable karmic result, with all kinds of variations, of course. And when we can recognize those nuances, that's when we're able to answer the question, what did I do to make this happen? Right? Like we reach a certain stage in our practice, and that's what we're doing. Like I get in a traffic jam. What did I do to make a traffic jam? And it's like you don't really even need to ask that question anymore when we understand like this database, when we've got it inside our, right, whatever you call that, our hard drive, that it's like, oh, I obstructed people getting somewhere. That alone, I don't find all that helpful. Like, duh. But what do I do with it now? And what do I do with it later in order to reduce the likelihood of getting into traffic jams in the future? And so while you're in the traffic jam, recognizing, these are my seeds ripening. I obstructed people's travel in the past. Okay, I'll stop blaming the slow train, right? Yes, there's a slow train that's making the traffic jam, but that's not really where it's coming from. That will all help. More as keeping me from getting so upset. But if it's going to make me late for my doctor's appointment, that's a whole different issue. Like if I'm late to the doctor's appointment, that sets off a whole new set of mental afflictions. Oh my gosh, right? They'll not let me see the doctor. They'll charge me for a missed visit. It wasn't my fault, right? That mental affliction goes off even while I'm saying, oh, I caused this obstacle to my getting somewhere by obstacling others. See, it really doesn't help me to know that when the real mental affliction is, I'm going to be late. And that means I'm not responsible. And that means, right, and all of that. So then we would need to do the same thing there. It's like, oh, why am I getting so upset over the potential for being late to my doctor's office? Where does that come from? And I can do the same thing. I can look at, oh, this kind of mental state. So like, where I'm trying to go with that is sometimes the first level, what I did to cause this is it nice information, but it isn't really the issue we're upset about. And we can look deeper and then again find out, oh, okay, so I made somebody feel like that. Again, I don't find that so helpful. But what is helpful is, okay, so where am I contributing to people feeling like that? Right? Where am I currently still getting in people's way that I will probably meet a traffic jam in the future? Where am I imposing my, you have to be on time or not at all in class, right? That's causing trouble. Where can I change my behavior in the future so that I can ward off something like this in the future? So if we have a situation where we are repeatedly meeting traffic jams, like morning traffic, then somewhere else that you might be making it difficult for people to achieve their goal, to get where they're going, where can I find a place where I can stay out of people's way and do that intentionally there in order to see less traffic jams in my world? Right? Yes, I can intentionally not go driving during traffic jam time, right? Which I can do, retired. I can take no appointments before 10 o'clock. So I'm not out there with the crowd. But when I'm in the grocery store, right, do I patiently wait for the person who's picking their can of beans? Or do I, excuse me, reach around them, get in their way? Do I grumble about being in the long line? For years after learning this, I intentionally chose the long line at the grocery store. And, it took 6, 8 years before I started to notice, gee, when I go to the grocery store, there aren't long lines anymore. Or if there is one and I get into it, I still do that. When the new checker comes and they go, next person in line, please, they'll point at me, whether I'm the next person or not. They'll go, hey, come over here. It happens so often that it's like, wow, right? It just took time, 5, 10, 8 years. And now it's like almost never obstructed in the grocery store, and very rarely stuck in a traffic jam that I either can't get out of by turning around, or even it just lasting very long. Sometimes we'll be in a traffic jam and Smutty and I will both think, oh, another obstructing, and then it'll open up and be done. So it's like, it's not because in the moment we act right that everything changes. It's that we've been putting this into practice regularly for a while now, with enough frequency that now it's already starting to show its impact. So let's go through these, understanding what the non-virtues are better first, and then we'll look at their karmic correlations, of which there are 4 levels that they can ripen. So remember that with seed planting, there are 4 factors. They're called the 4 parts of a path of action. There are 4 factors that make a karmic seed be implanted with the strength that it would need to carry on to a result. And the extent to which those factors are present as we plant our seed determines this, influences the experience of that seed's ripening. So it's not that you can only make a seed with all 4 intact. It's the level to which any of the 4 are involved in the planting of the seed influences the seed, which carries along and influences its result. So there are these variables for any given deed, how it's going to come back to us. But the underlying theme of the deed, like killing, will always come back, having to do with the quality and length of our life. So these 4 factors, if you recall, the first is the level of premeditation done. Something that's like fully, carefully premeditated is a stronger karmic seed than something that we do that's by accident. So premeditation, the level of premeditation. Second one is the level of correct identification of the object. The third is the extent to which we are under a mental affliction when we do the deed. What mental affliction and how much we're being colored by that mental affliction, it impacts the seed planted. And the fourth one is actually undertaking the deed, completing it. So for instance, in an act of killing, the strongest karmic seed for killing would be totally premeditated, clearly identified your object and the fact that they're a living being, and they're the one that I've premeditated about, clearly identified. We've got this strong mental affliction. Like, I hate this being, and I know that I'll be happier when I take them out, right? I'm going to do this. Strongly mentally afflicted. And fourth, you go do the deed, and you know they die as a result of it, either at the moment or whenever later. You are aware that they die because of your action. That's like the having the four intact, a strong deed of killing, a strong non-virtue of killing done. Any of these factors, right, are right minimally present. They're going to influence the way the seed ripens. So no circumstance is ever going to be the same, because these four are always a little bit different in every circumstance. So all of our non-virtues, all of our behaviors have these four aspects. You want a good behavior to plant a really strong seed, right? You do it premeditatively. You do it towards a really clearly defined object. You do it influenced with a mind of wisdom to our greatest extent. And we undertake the deed and see ourselves complete it, right? The four steps of how to create something that we want. It's based on these same principles. So for killing, any way in which we participate in some living being ending up dead is a karmic seed, the consequence of which will be the result of killing. So whether we do it ourselves or enlist somebody to do it, or just benefit from somebody else having done so, right? All of it is seeds of killing. And so when we like take that out to its extended impact, even paying our taxes, part of which go to support the military, which goes right out and hurts people in the name of protection, we're still gathering some of that karma. And it's like, yeah, but you got to pay your taxes. There's nowhere you can't do that. So yeah, we're kind of stuck. That's what it is. That's what samsara is, right? We're stuck in a world where we can't just decide I'm not going to contribute. We can decide it. We just can't really act on it well enough yet. But that's our karmic correlations as well. So that can be changed. You know, Geshe always says, just write a letter to your government and say, you know I have to pay my taxes, but I believe in this reap what you sow thing really strongly. And I just want to state that I disassociate myself with the money that my tax is going to support killing in any way. And they, they'll send you back a letter saying, thank you for your correspondence. It doesn't matter, right? Their answer doesn't matter. You've seen yourself say, look, if I could not do this, I would not. But then, other circumstances, we're the ones who decide at which at which level do I finally draw the line? Maybe we decide, okay, I'm going to stop eating meat, but I'm still going to use milk and eggs as long as the eggs don't have a rooster. Or maybe we finally decide, no, even that cruelty involved is too much. There's still killing involved, and I'm not going to do that. But I still have to drive my car, and that still involves killing, right? We just can't get through life without killing something. But we ourselves are the ones who can decide, right, the bar, right, where we draw the line. And then don't impose it on anybody else, right? Your own choice. Other people will try to impose their choices on you, of course, because we've done that before. But, right, feel free to stand your ground. Second one is stealing, taking anything of value that's not been given. And that includes cheating on any obligation, underpaying what's due, any shady business deal, right? Things that in our cultures say that's just fine. But fine is one thing culturally. What comes back to me is another. And that's what we're looking at here. Is it okay with me that somebody tries to cheat me out of, I don't know, something that they owe me? I won't be happy about it. And we're gaining more clear understanding that they won't be happy about the result they really get from that. They think they get the advantage, but in fact, they get to be the one that gets taken advantage of in the future. And you know what? That's unpleasant. It's happening. Excuse me. Next one, sexual misconduct. Mainly, this is adultery, interfering with others' commitments, which it seems like cultures nowadays are not finding adultery as being something that's so necessarily needing to be avoided. Probably just a phase we're in. The the reason that sexual activity is even mentioned is that it's such a source of mental afflictions, right? When we get in a relationship that we call an exclusive relationship, all of a sudden we've got these attachments and these expectations on this other person who has them on us, and we can almost never measure up, and they can almost never measure up for us, and we get all these mental afflictions. And then it seems like, well, then having this exclusivity just increases our mental afflictions. It doesn't decrease them. Buddha, why would you insist on this exclusivity? And Buddha didn't insist on exclusivity. He actually insisted on leave the home life, like ditch that altogether, because it's so fraught with mental afflictions. And there's also the Buddhist path where you step into your family life and use it much more conscientiously. But at the level of the Vinaya, we're at the avoid situations where those mental afflictions are going to come up. until we have a better capacity for keeping that wild horse tamed, keeping that wild horse in check. So from that perspective, then the sexual misconduct in the scripture, it talks about any way in which sexual activity habits will lead to increasing desire for more and increasing expectation on the partner to be able to bring us those kinds of pleasures and happinesses. So it gives specifics. The scripture says sex in the orifice not meant for it is a sexual misconduct with someone you are related to, with someone who's too young, right? Not a legal adult in the culture that you're in, with a woman who's menstruating, with someone who's ordained, with a woman who's more than a month pregnant, with a woman who's caring for a very young child, with any person whom it would hurt, with anybody with a sexually transmitted disease. In the wrong location, meaning the physical location, not the body location. Too great a frequency. It even said in the daytime, sex in the daytime. Again, not because any of these are inherently bad, but because they all increase our mental afflictions about those behaviors. So anything that increases desire, makes us want for more, is plant seeds that perpetuates those mental afflictions. So how sexual misconduct is going to ripen in our future, we'll see. Geshe-la said, very likely we hear things in this class that our mind will want to reject, right? Culturally, the things we're talking about, they're acceptable. Personally, we find them acceptable, maybe. And here Buddha is saying, no. It sounds like he's saying, no, bad deed, right? He's not saying that. He's saying deeds that perpetuate our mental afflictions through which we perpetuate samsara. Not good or bad, but perpetuating samsara. So, if we meet up against teachings like that and we want to go, no, that's not for me, put it on the shelf. Don't reject it. Don't accept the Buddhist teaching flat out. Just say, okay, I'll put it here and wait for more information, more circumstance, more wisdom to come to my mind before I decide. Okay, so we're on to the 4 of speech. The first one is lying, giving someone a misimpression. A misimpression about something we've seen or believe or know. It's pretty difficult not to give misimpressions. Even when we're trying not to, right? There's a goofy little movie called The Invention of Lies, I think, that starts out with the society, people can't lie. Not just that they won't, but they can't, which means they say everything they're thinking, every impulse that they have. It's disgusting, right? Like people are rude. It's weird. Can you still hear me? And then it occurs to somebody to lie about something, and then the person believes them, of course, because he's the only one who's ever made something up. And then it goes on from there, and It's very, very funny. Very dharmic. I don't know that it was meant to be, but I find it quite the Dharma movie. So any way in which we give a wrong impression, of course, we can do so intentionally in order to deceive, right? With the 4 factors, for it to be a big lie, or it can be not with all the 4 really strong, some variation of that theme. It's still going to come back to us as some way in which the result of lying shows up in our life, right? So we're getting there. Mostly we lie to get something, right? Or to avoid something, and then if we do lie to get the advantage of the deal, for instance, and we get the advantage of the deal, we think, see, lying worked. And then we're willing to do more. Then another time we lie to get the deal and we don't get the deal. For some reason, we don't connect that dot and go, oh, lying doesn't work. We just think it didn't work this time. I have to do a better job. Our minds are so slippery, right? Our self-existent minds. If we get the good result from lying, the good result is a result of the past helping somebody else get the good result. Lying is going to bring us something else. That's where we're going. Something unpleasant. Because is it pleasant to be deceived? Is it pleasant to be cheated? Is it pleasant to be lied to? Yeah, not mostly. Mm, 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 mm. Next one, divisive speech. Divisive speech means we say something to someone about somebody else that's affects the person we're talking to in such a way that that person likes the one we're talking about a little bit less. So typically we criticize or we point out a fault, or right, we tell our opinion of that person to this person. And the reason we usually do that is that we don't like this person that we're talking about, and we want to verify ourselves, justify ourselves. So we'll tell someone about that other person who we think doesn't like them so much anyway, and that person's, we expect them to agree with us. Oh yeah, you saw them do that. I saw them do such and such, right? And it verifies our belief that that person is bad, and because now we have 2 of us thinking they're bad, and the end result is the other person I'm talking to likes that third person less, even less than they did before. And even if the person I'm telling this to likes the third person I'm talking about, my pointing out their faults, if the person I'm talking to, doesn't have a strong heart, may be influenced by my negative words about that person. And then they'll like them a little bit less, right? So we're concerned here with our impact of our words on another person about a third person. It's like, this is one of the top 10. We must be doing it inadvertently, frequently, maybe not premeditated with a clearly defined object, but we're still doing it. And it has karmic results, which once we see the karmic results, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be more careful about that. 6th one, harsh talk. Harsh talk means speech with the intention of being unkind. So it can include sarcasm. Typical, it's the swearing, calling somebody bad names. Uh, any any words that someone, if they even overheard you, would be offended, which that depends on who's overhearing you, right? It seems. But the willingness to be speaking in a way that somebody who could hear them could be offended, that would qualify as this harsh speech. We can use harsh words fondly. I mean, even that in the end, you'll probably decide, I think I'm going to stop doing that too. But it's this variation on the four parts of the whole path of action to use harsh speech, but with the intention to increase our fondness is going to come back in some weird ways that maybe in the end we don't want to do that. Buddha's not saying you must stop this, you must stop that. He's saying you do this, you'll get that. You decide. Okay, so we're getting there. Fourth one for speech is idle speech, useless speech, meaningless chatter. They say even to talk to ourselves, right, or to talk to inanimate objects is useless speech. Arguments, criticism, disputes, reciting non-Buddhist texts that the scripture says, reciting Buddhist scripts texts, thinking about something else. Ay. That happens a lot in this mind. Useless joking, whining, complaining. Any speech motivated by attachment, like that would be everything. Gossip, craving, movies, politics, sports. Like, what are you going to talk about? In the extreme form, useless speech is even useless Dharma speech in the sense of gossip amongst our Sangha, right, where you're not hashing out a concept. You're just saying, did you hear what that blah, blah, blah person did? Or, right, it's just useless speech. A lot of what we call necessary speech, when we really look at it, we could say it much more precisely and quickly and get our point across. It would be hard to blend in with a society if we are strict about our speech in this way. And so Buddha, Geshe Michael too, was quick to say a bodhisattva's job is to blend in. So a bodhisattva's job, you get to interact with a casual conversation, and your state of mind is, where can I, throw in a one-liner that'll help everybody see this situation in a different way. Maybe you never get to throw in the one-liner, but on your mind, you're like watching for where you could turn the conversation to something more meaningful. Like in my experience, when people are, going on about a circumstance of the day, and everybody's sharing their take on what's going wrong, which is useful to hear these different opinions. But at some point, instead of just continuing to point out what's going wrong, how about having a suggestion, right? Some kind of improvement that we could see happen. And so it's like, I've always got this, when can I jump in and say, right, let's think of a solution. And most of the time when I finally say it, it falls flat. People just look at me. And then the next thing that is, right, we go right back again, because it's really hard to shift the direction, the focus of a conversation with other people, right? We can try, and I can't do it myself. I can't sustain it either. But so for a useless talk avoidance mechanism, you're like thinking, where can I try to shift it? Where can I decrease my own, but still stay involved with other people? Right? From a pratimoksha level, we would remove ourselves from that conversation to protect our ethical way of life. From a bodhisattva perspective, you step into it, but with the state of mind, how can I add my input such that it will elevate this time frame? Do you see? Okay, so let's go on to the three of mind. The first one they call craving or coveting. We use the more modern term jealousy. Which is this being unhappy when someone is getting some kind of success, which is really a little different than coveting or craving. Coveting is like somebody else has something and, whoa, you'd like to have that. Not that you're necessarily going to go and take it from the other person, but it increases this desire to have that thing. You know, that coveting. Like, I want that. I want that too. It could be a physical thing, a material thing, or a quality or a characteristic. You know, maybe we see somebody who's really charismatic and then we'd like to be charismatic, but don't see ourselves that way. And as a result, instead of admiring them and trying to be like them, we go, ew, right? Like we somehow get in the way of their charisma because we don't have it and we would like to have it, but they do have it. It's this just perverted way that our samsaric minds act. Not always, of course. But when we're talking about this mental affliction, which we must be doing because it's in the top 10, it has these components. There are these 5 conditions that this state of mind they call coveting has. So the first is that you are attached to your own possessions or characteristics, whatever it is that's triggering this coveting. We have our own version of it and we are really attached to it. Second, we would like to accumulate more of it. Third, we learn that somebody else has something, probably something similar and a little better, right? From us perceived, what they have is a little better than what we have. And then it occurs to us that we would like to have those that they have. Like ours isn't quite good enough now. We need to step up to match theirs. It's not that we're willing necessarily to take theirs away from them, but because they have it, I want that or better. Then number 5, that desire becomes overwhelming and we act in some way, the scripture says shamelessly, to get that thing, right? So the old what scenario was keeping up with the Joneses. You know, you live in this neighborhood and the guy across the street gets the new fancy car and you've never bought a brand new car. Yours have always been used. And then because he has it, it's like, oh, honey, don't you think we need to buy a new car? And you don't really need one, but you justify it even though you can't maybe afford it, just because he's got one, I want one in my front yard. Like, I never really related to that so much, but I know people, I've seen people, like, I don't know people personally, but I've seen people who that really did sway their behavior, not about shiny new cars, but about other things. The latest trend, time for me to have it. Out of this comparing each other. And if I fall short, I need to have what's a little bit better than the other guy, right? So I get my new car, then that guy's new car isn't good enough for him. He gets a new lawnmower, and then, right, somebody's always one-upping the other one, and then it gets all out of hand, right? And you go into debt and etc. So craving, coveting, in terms of like qualities or characteristics, when we have competition, suppose you're on a team and there's a team member that's really good and you're the second best, and that could really spawn a powerful, healthy competitiveness where you're helping each other get better, right? You're trying to get better than them and they're trying to stay better than you. And so you both work really, really hard. Or it can trigger this unhealthy competition where in your effort to get better than them, you actually try to interfere in some way with them and their workout. And it could go really sour that you get in the way and they get hurt. And then it's like, oh, so sorry, you got hurt, right? That's ill will. It verges right on into the second of the 10 mental afflictions through which we perpetuate samsara. Ill will, when feeling happy when someone we don't like has problems. So jealousy is being unhappy when somebody gets what they want. Ill will is being happy when somebody doesn't get what they want. Right? It's really an ugly state of mind, and we all have it. There's the bad guy, and they've got these bad qualities. And then it's really hard, even in our wish for things to change and get better, to not have some feeling of bad things happen, to get that person out of the way. It's really hard. Even when we say, well, their karma is going to come back to get them, which is true, we're gloating about it. Instead of, gads, when their karma comes back, it's going to be so horrible for them. And then wanting to stop this whole thing because of that. That's not the common state of mind, even when we go, oh, karma's going to get them. It's ill will to be happy that their karma is going to get them. And we can't help it. When it comes up, we go, oh, yuck. And that's enough that we don't plant the seed strong enough. Jealousy, ill will. Let's do the last one and then we'll take our break. Wrong view is the last one. When we think of wrong view, we're so well trained to think, oh, believing the thing has its identity in it from it is the wrong view. But wrong view at this level is the wrong view that doesn't believe that our actions have consequences. And it's like, well, that's silly. Everybody knows that actions have consequences. You put the key in the ignition and turn it. The consequence is the car starts. So we believe that our actions have consequences, but we don't understand the real consequences, right? We don't understand that it's our behavior that creates the circumstances of whether the key turning the car starts the car or not, because we don't think it through, recognizing that son of a gun, sometimes I turn the key and the car starts, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, we blame the battery. And we're probably right, but we're still wrong, because neither one, right, was a result of turning the key. Whether the car started or didn't start was coming from something else. That we don't understand. That's the wrong view. We call it not believing in karma. But do you see it? You could mean a whole lot of stuff by not believing in karma. It's very specific. And then for that, I don't know how to finish that sentence. The other part of wrong view is not believing in past and future lifetimes. Because, if you said to somebody, is it true that you reap what you sow happens within the frame of your lifetime? They would say, come on, everything that you do in this lifetime can't come back to you in one lifetime. Suppose you're one of those kids that, is a really great little kid, and then they reach puberty and they get in with a bunch of friends, and those friends, they end up part of a gang. And it's like, how can the karmic seeds planted by that little kid who was so good, all of a sudden, be in a situation where they're happy to go, whatever gangs do. So it's like, it can't be true, this seed planting thing, and be verified in one lifetime. There has to be past and future life. And so if you don't believe in past or future lives, then the karmic, the karmic impact loses power. It doesn't make it untrue. It's just that you can't show it to yourself well enough to live by it. So hopefully we've proved to ourselves the truth of past and future life. More likely, we have the seeds to believe it. But we should still go back and show ourselves why it must be true. And it was that argument that if I'm aware now, I had to be aware at the first moment of this life. And I had to have been aware before the first moment of this life. And so, ta-da, right? Previous lifetime. And then do that same argument moving forward, and ta-da, right? This mind's going to go on forever. But we need to come to that conclusion ourselves in order for our wrong worldview to show itself to us, not believing that that's true, thinking that this lifetime is all we've got. In which case, do what you need to do to be happy. Because when you're dead, you're gone, and it's done. And I believed that right up until I was 32 years old. And then something happened that a direct experience that I had that showed me I was wrong. And right, my whole belief system crashed and burned, thank goodness. But it took time to piece together a new worldview. And then here I am, hooray. So let's take a break. And we'll get into the details of the karmic correlations. So karma is the direct cause of every microsecond of experience that we have. It's both our curse and our power, said Geshe Michael. It's our curse because things are gonna ripen. but it's our power in the sense that how we respond to them create our future experiences, not the one in the very next moment, but inevitably it's karma that's running the show. To make karma, all that's necessary is that our mind is aware, and our mind is always aware, even when we are passed out, even when we are anesthetized, even when our body's dying, even when we are in deep sleep and it seems like it's just blank when you come out of it. The awareness is always there on obvious or subtle levels. So all it takes is to be to make karma. So we are making it, collecting, it's called. To be just aware of ourselves, thinking, doing, saying, collects karma. Collects means fresh karma. The seed is planted. Whether it's ever going to get over its threshold or not, different story. But the cause is planted. It doesn't become the cause until the result ripens, till it gets over the threshold into experience. But the whole time in between, the awareness of me doing, planting the seed, that seed rattling along, being influenced by everything else, I think, say, and do, until it gets over this threshold for manifestation as the experience. And then how I'm aware of the experience, how I respond to the experience, plant seeds new. So we're constantly ripening, planting, ripening, planting, ripening, planting, right? Our thinking minds can only think of it as sequential, but technically it's happening, right, together. Experience, response, and it's all happening in the now. And that's me and my world, me and my life. All this process we call karma, that we call really profound dependence together. So all of these deeds that we're saying are things we want to avoid, the non-virtues, the wrong deeds, the bad deeds, are only bad because when their results happen, they will be unpleasant experiences. Our own unpleasant experience is what makes the deed done that is the cause for that experience a bad deed. So we've heard that before. You can't really say whether a deed you're doing now is a good deed or a bad deed because it hasn't ripened yet. Once it ripens, if it's pleasant, it was a good deed. If it's unpleasant, it was a bad deed. So when we learn about these correlations, we can establish, well, that would be unpleasant to be going along, with a healthy life and then get in a car accident and be paralyzed, right? And then my life is shortened because paralyzed people don't live a long time. It's right. So my life gets cut short. Or even worse, I'm going along just fine. I get pneumonia and die. It's like that would be a bad result, I think. Or we get cheated, that if we have an unpleasant thing happen to us ever, it's a result of having somehow created that cause by doing something similar to another is our party line, right? But now we've got we're going to have this list of correlations from these 10 basic deeds that bring unpleasant results through which we perpetuate samsara, that we can redesign our response so that we can have less and less unpleasant experiences in the future. And if that's our goal, fine, use it for that. If our goal is nirvana, then use it for that. If our goal is Buddhahood, then use it for that. And all the rest comes along for the ride. So wrong deeds that come back to us as unpleasant are then deeds that block our nirvana, because we respond to that unpleasantness in a way that perpetuates them. Someday we'll have a unpleasant ripening and we won't have a mental affliction about it, and then we won't respond badly. And if our mind has reached the place where it couldn't have a mental affliction about any kind of unpleasantness that comes up, that's what it is to be in nirvana. Right? Our mind doesn't get rocked from its peace of mind, even as our experiences are still going along, pleasant, unpleasant, unpleasant, pleasant, right? Until those seeds are replanted as well. So there are 4 different karmic results that come out of any given behavior. We're going to talk about the 4 specific to the 10 non-virtues. These 4 come to us from DCI as the 4 flowers. But here's the right where that comes from, out of Jetson-Kappa's Lamrim Chenmo, which comes out of Buddha's teachings. So the first level of karmic result is called the ripened result. And for the ripened result, what they mean by that is that how the karma influences our overall projection in that in a future birth. So call it the projecting karma that sends us into the next realm, the ripening result. So any seed, mental seed, could be the projecting karma that sends us to the next lifetime. And the quality of that karmic seed distinguishes whether it's a hell realm, a hungry ghost, an animal, a human, etc. So any of these 10 non-virtues can be the seed that is the projecting karma into the next life. For an extreme instant of any of the 10 non-virtues, if that ripens as the projecting karma, that will project us into a hell realm. It doesn't matter whether the extreme of the 10 non-virtue was killing or stealing or sexual misconduct or lying. If the extreme version of that deed is the projecting karma, hell realm is the ripened result, that next lifetime. So what does it mean to be an extreme instance of the 10 bad deeds? It's one where all 4 parts of that path of action are strong. So for killing, premeditated, clearly identified, the object, that's the one I wanted to kill. It's living. I'm going to kill it. We go and we have the mental affliction strongly involved. They're bad. My solution is to kill it. I'm going to do it. And then we take on the deed and they actually die, right? To have all those 4 planted, it's not one seed, right? It's going to be a whole series of seeds, but any one of those being the projecting karma hell realm, right? So those same 4 for ill will, those same 4, right, for any of the 10 sends hell realm as a ripening result. Medium level deed means, you don't have all those 4 really strongly intact. some variation. Wasn't really premeditated, or premeditated, but oops, it wasn't actually the right person, or premeditated right person, but I was really trying to help them. Mental affliction, right? Misguided, trying to help. And then, they did die, but maybe they didn't actually die of what I did, but they died of something else, right? I ended up hurting them. They got infection. They went to the hospital. They got pneumonia in the hospital. They died of the pneumonia, not of my action. So that would be a medium deed. Medium deed sends you to birth as a craving spirit. So before we heard craving spirit from being stingy, etc. But also any of the 10 deeds done medium way. And then any of the 10 deeds done by a lesser instance, birth as an animal. If that seed is a projecting karma, birth as an animal. What animal, right? That would be filled in by other seeds. So the lesser instant, something done by accident, something done repeatedly, something done, not really very aware of what we're doing. You can see how that would send us to an animal realm where we're on instinct, we're on automatic pilot, right? We have to do what we do. When we're a gazelle, you have to live as a gazelle. You can't decide, oh, I'm going to live differently. Me, the gazelle, is going to choose to live like a monkey. You can't do that, right? As humans, we can kind of do that. It's unique to being human. All right, so ripened result means ripen into the next life. Then the next level of the 4 is called the consistent result. The second one is called the consistent result. And it's expressed as, even if you do get a rebirth as a human, then you'll have the habit of doing that wrong deed again. So if in a given life, we're in the habit of lying, and then we die and we are projecting karma somehow miraculously gets us another human life. We are born as the one who just sees nothing wrong with lying, right? Is always fibbing, right? Just seems to have the automatic pilot to fib because of past seeds, coloring that life in that way. Not that you can't change it, of course, but we would have to recognize it. So it's called the consistent result. We have the habit of, and we enjoy doing that which the consistent result is ripening. Then the third factor is called the consistent consequence. And it gets confusing because of the redundancy of the words. The consistent consequence is the things that we will personally experience as a result of the deeds that we have done towards others. This is the one we think more of as karma, right? What I do is going to come back to me. This is what comes back to me. It's our own experience, what our own experience will be like as a result of what we've seen ourselves think, do, say towards others. And each one of the 10 non-deeds has 2 identifiable kinds of experiences that are their consistent consequence. So for killing, the first one is our life will be short. We'll get, the first one is our life will get short, be short. The second one is we get sick and tire easily. So those beings who just were sickly. It's a result of previous lifetimes' habits of killing. And who's gonna come up with that? When I was in medicine, mostly I did adult medicine, but I had some kids I took care of, and one sweet little girl had asthma, and I saw her regularly, and she'd get head colds, and every time she got a head cold, her asthma would kick up. We need to do an asthma treatment and so forth. Darling little girl, but always sick. And hopefully she grew out of it. But it's like my job, I didn't know about this at that time, but it's like now looking back, it's like that poor thing. She's ripening results of some past life in which, right, killing was what was necessary to live. And now she's ripening the result as this little kid, right? She's not killing things. It's just happening. Even if I had known it at the time, I would not have told her that, right? But I might have encouraged her, to find ways of how to help somebody else feel better without even saying why. Just saying, use this prescription, use this medicine, and, when you get back to school, right? I'd come up with some way, some suggestion for how she could help a friend. And maybe, right, her seeds would have shifted. They eventually did, but you get the idea. So if we're having health problems, right, we reach for the geritol, the vitamins, the exercise, all those things work and don't work. What really works is protect life. But the thing about protect life, if it doesn't work in the next moment, but neither does the geritol. We just think it does. So, different ways to protect life helps our seeds for future lives, whether it's the future of this one or the future of future ones, be long-lived and healthy. So it's not that, okay, every month I need to go buy fish and let them go in the bay, right? I don't have access to that. But we can protect life as we go through our day. Wear your seatbelt. Stop behind the limit line of the stop sign. Don't run the yellow light. All the different ways that we get sloppy because we think we're safe, because we've done it so many times and we're safe, but are all opportunities where we can say, no, I'm protecting life here. Even if nobody's coming, to stop behind the stop sign limit line is protecting life. All these little ways that we can do it. Give blood when the Red Cross comes to town if you qualify, right? Little ways that we can protect life in order to do the opposite of all the killing that we can't help but do. Drive your car, we're killing stuff. Eat vegetables, eat nothing but vegetables. There's still creatures getting killed by harvesting the vegetables. Even if we grow our own garden, and we're going to be so careful about all those little pill bugs to not hurt them as we harvest our vegetables, we're still going to kill somebody. But we can also protect life more than we were before. Second one, stealing. The consistent consequence from stealing is we never have enough to live on. And whatever we do have, we must share with others. Like everything's in common property. We don't really have the exclusive use of anything. And when we live in families, right, that's true. And it's not a bad thing, right? You're the parents, you're providing everything for the kids. Everything you have is sharing with them. Maybe you don't have anything that you can really say is your own, and that's not a bad thing. It's a karmic consequence of stealing if you're living in a dormitory and your roommate keeps using your toothpaste, and you didn't offer it, and they're just don't care enough to distinguish their toothpaste from your toothpaste, but you are upset about it, right? It's my toothpaste, you keep your gloves off of it. It's a result of our own past stealing that makes us be in a situation where somebody's going to use my stuff. You see, so it's the unpleasantness of it that makes it a result of stealing, not when I'm happily sharing everything, right, to take care of you situation. But it is interesting when we think of people that are in poverty, and we think of the reasons for poverty is, well, they don't have wealth, which we would think, oh, because they were stingy in the past that they don't have wealth. But here, technically, it's from past stealing. No, and if you can't get your needs met and you come across something that would be one of your needs, you would take it to use. So you're stealing because you're in the situation of not having your needs met, would perpetuate the not having the needs met, even in that lifetime, because you'll get in trouble for stealing. But even then, like as I'm following my example along, suppose someone who's homeless gets caught for stealing and they get put in jail. It's unpleasant to be in jail, but now they have a bed and they have a meal. So they're actually getting their needs met in some way better than when they were living under the bridge. It's just unpleasant. It's more unpleasant to get your needs met in jail than to not get your needs met under the bridge. Do you see? So none of this is a black and white thing. But when we're trying to solve poverty, are we somehow addressing past habits of stealing and whatever state of mind or mental affliction that would lead to stealing as the cause of their poverty, right? If you brought it up at your city council meeting, the solution to our poverty is to prevent stealing, they'd say, yeah, right, bye, because it doesn't make sense. In our day-to-day world, it doesn't make any sense at all. But that would be what would, if we were able to work on that, that's what would shift the karmic seeds of everybody seeing homeless people if everybody does less stealing. I don't steal. Wait, do you take pencils home from work? Right? We talked about it before. Do you steal somebody's time, which I'm going to ask your permission, but I'm going to steal your time at the end of class because I can't do this in the time I need. You get it? Stealing. Sexual misconduct. Consistent consequence is the people around you are unreliable. They're inconsistent. Because we're ripening seeds from having been unreliable or inconsistent with our closest person in the past. So this ripening result is not just in the sexual activity arena of people being inconsistent. It's in any way that we're finding people to be unreliable. Where it's going to show up would probably be our work life, right? Or our family life, where, the kids have certain responsibilities and they don't come through. Or in our work life, our teammates don't fill their role the way they're supposed to. our judgment is people are unreliable. And we blame them, right? And get upset with them, when in fact it's ripening seeds of our own past unreliableness, but in specific unreliable in the context of sexual misconduct with somebody else's partner. And it's like, who would draw that conclusion? And how useful is it to think, okay, some past life I did adultery so that my team at work is full of unreliable people. So we would go back and go, wow, you know, that was a big mistake that life. I didn't do it in this life. You know, is there any way that I'm giving anybody a wrong impression in this life? I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to do such and such as my antidote for that past life of doing it. And I'm going to really, really honor my commitments to other people, to see my team at work experience shift. Right? Ordinarily, you would go to them and say, let's do a team, I don't know, relationship building exercise and learn how we can rely on each other better. And maybe that would work and maybe it wouldn't. Okay, dealing with our own past seeds, maybe that'll work and maybe it won't also by next week. But it is going to work. It has to work eventually. Eventually is the hard word here. Okay, people around you are unreliable from sexual misconduct. And the second factor is you will always have competition for your partner. So whether it's your sexual activity partner, that you've got this perfect partner and other people are hitting on them all the time. And if that's unpleasant for you, it's a result of past adultery. In the office space, right? You and your partner, your business partner, right? You've got this perfect situation going on, and the headhunters keep coming to your business partner. And so you're constantly afraid that they're going to cut and run. Right? That would be a result of past sexual misconduct. Who would figure that out? No? Okay, next one, lying. The consistent consequence of past lying is nobody believes what you say, even when you're speaking the truth. So we know this kind of stuff happens. Somebody who you see lies all the time, but you get in a group meeting and they say something and everybody believes them. You don't have the habit of lying. You're in that group meeting, you say something and it's like, nah, that's not right, right? Everybody disagrees with you and don't believe you. And the other way around. Maybe you're the one where no matter what comes out of your mouth, people believe you. You know, and then are we going to take advantage of that in some way? Right? Or are we going to be really conscientious about using that situation? From lying, nobody believes us even when we're telling the truth. The second is we perceive that people are always trying to deceive us, to cheat us, to lie to us. No, so everywhere we go, we're on this alert. They're out to get me. They're out to cheat me. They're out to, right, lie to you. Do you remember the old days when people had to count your change? You know, and you had to be on this constant alert. No, I had people, well, I kind of remember people, it's like they just accept their change and not count it. But me, it's like I was making sure it got right. I had this underlying sense that they were going to do it wrong and I was going to end up, you know, with less dime than I should have had. And I remember being like that. And now we don't have that, right? They they count out the change because the machine tells them how much to count out. And you just trust that they get it right. But I remember those days when it's like, no, no, they're out to get something from me. And it was really unpleasant to have to be on that kind of alert all the time. These kind of karmic results come up. They do shift. Hooray. Divisive speech. The first one for divisive speech, the result is people around us are always fighting with one another. Or it seems like they're fighting with one another. Right? Assuming it upsets you, there are cultures where to a other culture, it seems like they're fighting. I don't know, Italian, New Yorkers, I don't know, whatever, the hot-blooded Latins, maybe. They yell, they scream, they blame, right? And it's all part of being a family, and I guess they all enjoy it, and they don't see it as fighting. Me, from my background, like, what are you guys all fighting about? This is terrible. I can't be in the middle of this, right? I perceive it wrongly. It's my seeds ripening from this divisiveness, right? That would be unpleasant. Second factor from divisiveness is people around us have undesirable characters. Like you live in a community that, there's gang members everywhere. And so you feel, threatened and fearful or mistrustful. Right? We can see how that would come about. Next one, harsh speech. Consistent consequence is that the sounds in our world, so many are unpleasant. As a result of our own past harsh speech, we live where there's lots of sirens and squeaky bus brakes and barking dogs and right jets overhead and just noise, unpleasant sounds happening. The second is that when people talk to us, it sounds like they're trying to start a fight. To us, their tone seems, what's the word? Accusative. Right? What they're talking about feels accusative. It just always sounds like somebody's picking a fight. So between unpleasant sounds around us or someone always picking a fight, anytime that's happening, it's these kinds of seeds ripening, right? It doesn't mean only if we have a life where everybody picks a fight with us, then we're ripening these seeds. It's anytime it sounds like somebody's picking a fight with us. These are harsh speech seeds ripening. And when we have that, like in our lexicon, instead of blaming them, we'll go, oh, harsh speech ripening here. What do I want to do about it? Because ordinarily our automatic response would be to lay into them, right? Would you quit picking a fight with me? And we're probably going to use harsh speech in the process of doing that, thereby perpetuating the cycle or some other similar cycle, whatever it is, how we respond. So you have a neighbor with a barking dog. You can take cookies to the dog. You can ask the neighbor to restrain the dog. It may or may not work. Purify harsh speech and see what happens. How long do you have to purify your harsh speech? Until the dog stops bothering you. However long it takes. And that will be determined by the strength of our effort to change our own harsh speech now, to decide what we do to purify past harsh speech, and intentionally do the opposite of harsh speech to powerful karmic objects frequently, right? Powerful karmic object, lama, parent, arhat, someone in need, someone who's helped us, someone in need. You remember that list? Like all the stuff that we've been learning, it comes into play with this like database that we're developing now. How to use it. Harsh speech. Idle speech. The result of idle speech is no one respects what you say. Right? No one thinks what you say has any value. It's a little different than lying speech, where nobody believes you even when you're saying the truth. This one is they just don't value what you say. So they don't really even care enough to go, is it true or is it not true? It's just like, The second is we are afflicted with our own lack of confidence. We don't even respect what we say or think or do. From past useless speech, we have lack of self-confidence. Again, we wouldn't connect that dot. And Geshe-la said, if your therapist understood that your lack of self-confidence is from past gossiping, useless speech, and probably is being perpetuated by useless speech. I'm no good. I'll never be good enough. I can't do that. All the reasons why we can't put into practice what the therapist is suggesting we do, all that useless speech is what's perpetuating the lack of self-confidence. And if that counselor were able to say, look, go work on your useless speech in this way, right? So that whatever method we use to help boost your confidence can work, that therapist would be a successful therapist because they'd be adding a piece to their program that's working with the karmic seeds while using the scientific method for building confidence, so that the scientific method for building confidence can actually work. It can only work if we have the karmic seeds for it to work. And useless talk is the opposite of the karmic seeds that would make a technique boost our self-confidence. Do you see? So again, once we understand these correlations and we have enough courage to look into our own state of heart, state of mind, and see where we want to improve ourselves, we have this additional layer to work with, which is our karmic seeds from past behaviors. Coveting. Because of coveting, we have a personality that's dominated by desire for things, first. And second, we're never satisfied with what we have. So because of that jealousy or coveting before, in this life, we're one of those who needs the latest fad, who needs a new handbag with matching shoes to go to that party, right? Who just needs to keep up with the latest trend, right? There are apparently people like that. I don't actually know any, but right, you see them on TV in the ads. I don't know if that makes them real or not. But then also never satisfied with what we have. That's one of the 6 human sufferings, never satisfied. Interesting, isn't it? How ubiquitous our coveting must be, that even as humans, which is like the best karmic result circumstance we could have, is colored by the results of coveting, of jealousy. It must be so ubiquitous. Yeah. Ill will. Result of ill will. We are always finding ourselves without the help we need. So we saw that with divisive speech as well. Here, the result of ill will is this scenario where, you've got this big project and you need help from your team, and the team doesn't show up, or only half of the team shows up. And then, because of our past ill will, it's very likely that we get upset with those team members that didn't show up to do their part. We get mad at them. And then, right, in our mad at them, we don't care so much about why they didn't show up. Maybe their mom is really sick, right? And they had to take her to the hospital. We don't care about that. We don't even think about that. They didn't show up to their job. I'm mad at them. I'm gonna dock their pay, whatever. That ill will has just added to the seeds of possibility of not having the help you need, another time that you need help. So it's such a common pattern. And our reaction is so automatic to blame them and get upset with them for not showing up that then we perpetuate the very situation. Second result of ill will is that we find ourselves always hurting others or being hurt by others. So probably none of us are somebody who goes around hurting others. And hopefully we're not also the ones that are constantly getting hurt by others, physically, emotionally maybe, but physically at least. But it's happened to me that in my effort to protect something or somebody, I hurt it instead. Like catching the little pack rat because it was getting into the car, and we're not going to kill it, but somebody in the neighborhood is, if it gets into their car. So our justification is, let's catch it, take it miles away. It can live in the desert where everybody's happy with where it lives. And so we get the have a heart trap or something equivalent, and the little creature gets into the trap and it sticks its nose through the little spaces in the trap, and its nose gets caught and it swells up and it can't get its nose out. And the poor thing is in there all night, right, with this nose cut, like terrible. And then we had to hurt it worse to get it free. I mean, it was just awful. In our effort to protect it, we hurt it badly. And you take the bug out, so careful to get the bug in your cup, and then when you take it out and dump it, I don't know, it gets smashed by something else. It's like, oh man, we think, oh, I just wasn't careful enough. True, but result of past ill will, which means any ill will now is going to bring that up. Wrong view. As a result of past wrong view, we are a person who keeps harmful views now. And it's like, but would we know they're harmful views? Maybe we do, and still keep them. This one's a little hard for me to quite understand, because it's our own judgment of our own mind And why would we keep a view that's harmful once we know it's harmful? Unless we really, really have this ugly heart. You know, I know it's harmful and I want to use my harmful worldview to keep others hurting. Like really ugly. Hard to imagine even getting a human life with that kind of state of mind. But Geshe has said the way this might show up would be that our country has the view that if someone from another country is threatening to harm the people of our country, that it's right to go harm them before they can harm us. And that once they've harmed us, then it's right to go and harm them back, because that's what you're supposed to do in the face of getting harmed. That's how we protect our people, is to harm them bigger than they harmed us. And to think that that's the right thing to do is what they mean by holding wrong view. But you see, you think it's the right thing to do, but it's just going to come back to everybody as more unpleasantness, more suffering. So it's the wrong thing to do ultimately. You just think it's the right thing to do. Because of past wrong view, you think wrong views are right views. And then, of course, you're just going to do them and perpetuate them. It's a real problem. Wrong view. Not believing in karmic consequences and not believing in past and future lives leads to a world where views that are harmful are actually the way we should live. Sounds familiar to me right now. Second factor is we ourselves are a deceitful person, somebody who cheats others to get the advantage for ourselves. So, you know, presumably none of us are like that. And yet we live in a world where wrong views are right. So, right, we have it ripening in our outer world, but not so much in our inner world, thank goodness. But we could see how wrong view will perpetuate wrong view and lead to all these other ways of behavior that we're pointing out are wrong because they come back as these unpleasant ways. But if we reject all of that, then there's no reason to reject killing when it looks like you kill that animal, you have meat to eat. It looks like lying to get the deal, you get the deal. Sometimes. It looks like through jealousy, you can obstruct them from getting so that you can get more. And we'll believe it because of wrong view. So wrong view, although it seems like minor, just don't believe in karma, don't believe in past and future lives. It like underlies the willingness to do all those other 9 non-virtues. Because if we really did connect the dot, we wouldn't let ourselves do any of them, just purely out of self-protection, let alone everybody else. I don't want to experience the result of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, useless speech, jealousy, ill will, wrong view. I don't want to experience that. So I need to stop perpetuating the seeds that make me experience that. If it were easy to act upon, we would all be Buddhas already. And you probably are. I know I am not. You are welcome to quit pretending any minute. So we're at 7 a.m. my time, 7:04 actually. But I have about another half an hour of material to deliver to you. So, please, if you can stay, stay. If everybody cannot stay, I'll send you last night's class audio. You can get it from there. If somebody can stay, I'll deliver it. Do you need a break? Or shall we just go for it?
I gotta get ready for work, so.
Okay, so you'll go to the recording to get the rest, this recording.
Yes.
Anybody else staying for me? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, here goes. So what we have left to do is the fourth way that karma ripens, which as the environmental consequence of those 10. The experiences that we have in our life, like our worldly situations, the 10 virtues all have an impact on those as well. So Jetsun Kappa's Lamrim Chenmo goes into this in detail. He's talking about a time when the culture was agrarian. So the governing factor, excuse me, the governing factor in abundance was the quality of the crops, the timing and quality of the crops. So all of these karmic environmental consequences are talking about how effective the crops are. In modern time, we don't have that relationship with our crops. We have a relationship with the grocery store, right? Or the online shopping, whatever your mode is now. And whether or not stuff's available, affordable, whether it's valuable, right? So I'll try to adjust the scriptural about crops to how it can manifest in what we can relate to in terms of getting our needs met. So the consequence of killing expresses in our outer world as the food and drink and medicine and crops in the field having less and less power, like they're inferior. They have little nutrition, little potency. The medicines can't work. We eat food, but we're getting sicker. It doesn't sustain our strength. And what we see is that the majority of beings around us seem to die young, right? We already heard that our own personal consequences, we die young, right? If that's what's ripening. And sometimes the seed ripens as our outer world circumstances, not so much on our personal circumstances, right? So we're not always getting all four from each of these 10 non-needs. And it makes sense from having taken life. The things that we go to sustain ours aren't going to work as well. Then stealing, because of having stolen, the crops that grow are few and far between. When they grow, they don't have the power to remove hunger. They spoil easily and early. You plant the seeds and they don't come up, or they come up and then rain doesn't come, so they wilt and die, or they come up and too much rain comes and they wilt and die. It just The crops can't provide for us because we've stolen. Right? So we heard the personal result of stolen is we can't get our needs met. And here it's the outer world's way, right, of ripening in that way. So it's like we can go to those grocery stores that have so much merchandise, it's crazy, and have on our list to get peanut butter with no sugar, like just made of peanuts and salt and nothing else. And out of the millions of foods that they have and the 5 different kinds of peanut butter, they don't have the peanut butter with no sugar, and it's like that happens to me, or it used to. And it's like, doggone these grocery stores, they have everything but something that would actually be useful, right? My judgment, don't bother with peanut butter full of sugar, eat the one that's just peanuts, right? So I've got this judgment and I can't find it. And I blame the grocery store, right? I blame everything but my stealing karma. Like, who would connect the dot that I can't find peanut butter I want because of past stealing? I didn't steal in this lifetime. But you see that the karmic correlation is whatever the circumstance that I can't get my need met is a result of past stealing. So what to do with that? I don't steal now. And then, like, what's the opposite of stealing? Oh, protect others' property. Go further with the opposite would be, well, maybe the stuff I have, I could share better. I could share more, right? Like I'm going from the pendulum of not being able to get my needs met, so I'll take anything that I can get, stealing more, to avoiding stealing to stop that situation, but I don't steal. Okay, I'll protect others' property. I already do that. What goes further than protecting others' property is sharing my property with others. And then to take it even further, I'd want to share my property with those in need because that's where I started. I couldn't get my needs met. So it leads from stealing into generosity, from which every time I can't find that peanut butter, instead of going, right? It's like, oh, okay, who can I find that I can share something that I do have with? And then hopefully go do it. Right? We don't always have that opportunity to go do it. But the intention to go do it is, one step down from completing the cycle. So as we're growing this database, this is how we can start using it as our own guidelines for behavior. Third one, because I have wrong sexed, whatever that meant, the place where I live or the places that I frequent, there's urine and feces all around, mud and dirt and filth, and everything stinks and everything seems unpleasant and distasteful. So it maybe isn't the place that you live necessarily, but suppose on your commute to work, right? Your commute takes you through an area or a neighborhood where you're going past the restaurant or grocery store spoiled food dumpsters, and it just stinks, right? And it's always dirty and there's trash everywhere because the garbage can't keep up with the overflow of trash that's coming out, and you have to drive through this 5 minutes of stink, right? You wind your windows up, but like it's just these moments of past sexual misconduct ripening every day going to work. It's weird, right? And it's like, I don't do sexual misconduct now. Okay, I guess I must have because I keep going through this stinky area let me clean up my relationship in every other way, gross and subtle, and see what happens to my commute to work. See what happens to that stinky area. What might happen is all of a sudden the trash is always cleaned up. Or all of a sudden there's a different way for you to commute to work. Or even all of a sudden you're moved from that location to another location, so your drive is different. Who knows how it's going to actually ripen, but you've used up your seeds for driving through stinky place. And when you don't have the seeds ripening, you can't have that experience. True for any unpleasant experience that's happening in a recurring theme. We can recognize it, find its match in the 10 non-virtues, see what we did, see what the opposite of that is, add the piece where I've already done the opposite and rejoice, and do more of the opposite to change the unpleasantness. Like, that's the pattern. I'm going to go through it again at the end. Next one, because we've lied, we live in a world where when we undertake work in cooperation with others, like farming or anything, in the end, the work fails to prosper. The people don't work well together. For the most part, everybody thinks everybody else is cheating them. So everybody's afraid, and there are many things to be afraid of. Thanks. So because of giving misimpressions, this environmental consequence, it doesn't quite, right? We couldn't think this out. So in our more modern world, you have your team at work and you think you're on project, and then it's just like you can't get it completed. And everybody seems to be interfering with everybody else's effort to complete it, and it's just going wrong, going wrong, going wrong. And we try to find somebody or something to blame, when in fact it's our past lying. But I don't lie now. Okay. How can we take not lying to a higher level, right? Being really truthful. Does it mean sitting down with your team and saying, look, we need to really communicate clearly with each other here? That's not the problem, boss. The problem is they don't show up on time, right? That's a different karma. No, right now, right? We instigate this ability for everybody to speak more truthfully together as our antidote for the project not coming to fruition. It would be really different than what ordinary boss response would be. Next one, because we've split people up, the ground where we live is uneven, covered with crags and gullies, highs and lows. Travel is very difficult, where there are many things to be afraid, and we are always afraid. So this one, divisiveness, is ripening as you can't get from here to there, because there's ups and downs and things splitting you apart. Environmental splitting us apart. Harsh speech is similar. Because we've spoken harsh words, the ground where we live is covered with obstacles, prickly things, thorns and stones and broken glass, and I'm going to throw in cactus spines. It's rough and dreary. There's no streams or lakes or springs of water. The earth is hot and parched and poisoned with salt, burning hot, useless, threatening, no place to rest, many things to fear. Because of harsh speech, our environment is exceptionally harsh. I think of this as the Arizona desert. It's it's just like this. You go walk out in the desert, you have to be on your guard because you get within 6 inches of a plant and it's got barbs or thorns or claws or bees in it that are out to get you, it seems. And yet, if you sit down and watch, the little ground squirrels run all over those cacti that are covered in needles, and those little creatures don't get stuck. But I get close to it, and I've got a cactus pad stuck in my hand. It's like different karma for the different beings. Those little creatures don't have the karma for those cactus needles to be dangerous. I do. Why do I? Because of harsh speech. Who would figure that one out? So you want to change it? Change harsh speech. Seventh one, meaningless talk. Because we've spoken meaninglessly, fruits and crops refuse to grow. They grow at the wrong times, never at the right time. They seem ripe when they're not yet ripe, or their roots are frail, so they can't nutrient the tree. Maybe they topple over in the wind. They don't live long enough to really bear the fruit they're supposed to bear. There are no places to take your leisure, no parks, no glades, no pools of cool water, many things to make you afraid. So meaninglessness makes our crops that we're going to for life sustaining be meaningless. Right? They just can't do what we need them to do for us. So same grocery store would be, I go in there and all those billions of things, but I'm looking for yellow squash, and again, it's like, well, there's yellow squash, but it's all withered and shrinking, and they want, $3 a pound for it, and it's half rotten. Like, I'm not going to buy that. Why would the grocery store sell that? Right? My mental affliction would start when really it's some combination of these karmas ripening result in my environment of not being able to get what I want. That would be stealing karma, right? The like the peanut butter not there. How did I say? I forget what that was from. Lying. This one could be from meaningless talk. It's there, but it's useless. No, or you buy the fruit that looks delicious, but it tastes like cardboard when you get it home. And it's like that fruit lied to me. Looked beautiful, but ugh, not worth eating. Also meaningless talk. Like all these different ways that it's kind of fun when we know these correlations to go around looking. It's like, oh yeah, I see. I see where these are manifesting in my outer world. Meaningless talk. Next one, from coveting or jealousy. Because we've coveted what others have, then each and every good thing that we manage to get just gets worse and worse, less and less, like as we have it. So again, that was one of the 6 human sufferings, right? We're never satisfied. From high comes low, right? Everything gets less and less. But this one's like takes that a little bit more intensive, that because our past coveting even though maybe this life I'm not so much a coveter, but I finally get that thing that I needed or wanted, and I expect it to last a little while, right? In this nice state where I can enjoy it. But for example, I finally find that car that I need. And as I'm driving home my new car, whether it's used or brand new, the truck in front throws a rock and the windshield cracks. And it's like my new car already has become a problem. I haven't even gotten it home yet. And already it's a problem for me. So I get the windshield fixed. I get it home. The next day it's got a flat tire, right? And it's just like that kind of constant one thing after another being a problem, not necessarily always related to that car, but just life. One problem after the other. I know people who have those kinds of lives. No, it's always something. Never, right? Never calm at all. And who would say, it's because of your past jealousy? And even if I said it to them, would it be helpful? No, they'd say, who the hell are you to say whether I've been jealous or not? Well, just able to see your pattern, that's all, trying to help. But it wouldn't be helpful unless they asked you, why do you suppose I have a life like this? And then you could say, well, there's this thing about the pen, and then, and then, and then, and then. And so, really this kind of thing comes from jealousy or coveting. And maybe there's a pattern here that the harder your life is, the more upset you are when other people get a little bit of happiness. And maybe there's some underlying theme here that I could help you work with that would help you be intentionally happy with other people that are getting the things that you want that you can't seem to get. Maybe that would help. And then maybe they'll go along with you and maybe they won't, because it sounds crazy. My life is caving in and you want me to be happy for what other people have? Like, yeah, try it on for size, see what happens. We would have to be a living example of it before somebody else is going to say, well, maybe that's a good idea because it seems to work for you. Right? That would be the way we could catch their attention, perhaps. Coveting. Ill will, because we wish bad things on others. We live in a world of chaos, diseases spreading, evil is everywhere. There's plagues and conflicts and fear of armies from other nations. Where there are lions and tigers and bears, oh my, venomous snakes, scorpions, poison biting worms, surrounded by harmful spirits, thieves and muggers and the like. So because of ill will, like I'm seeing that in my world right now, not in my immediate world at all, but in my newsfeed world, right? A little bit further out is this wicked ripening of ill will. And then people's response, bless you, is to point out what all those others are doing wrong. And then to say something like, I wish this would come back to them. I wish, that eventually they'll get prosecuted, right? To end up with an ill will in pointing out the wrong that's happening, right, is perpetuating the wrong that's happening. And as I was studying for this class, I realized I was doing that on Substack, right? I had gone to that platform, Substack, and that's where I was seeing what was going on in my world. Rather than going to the news, I was going to people's Substack. And then when they were pointing out like an event that was happening that I don't perceive the news telling people about, but I want people to tell about, I would restack it, right? As my contribution to the resistance. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm just contributing to the perpetuation of the ill will. And it's like, so I deleted it all, right? I uninstalled Substack. As great a platform as I find that to be, I was contributing to the ill will that's ripening in my world right now, and I had to stop it. No, now I need to take it to the next level. Right? And I haven't figured out how to do that beyond my little community, but maybe I don't need to go beyond my community. Right? I already am doing it in my community, but can I do more? The opposite of ill will. So working on it. So last one is wrong views. Because we've held wrong views, we live in a world where the single highest source of happiness is steadily disappearing from the earth. A world where people think that things that are unclean and things that are suffering are actually things that are nice and bring happiness. A world where there's no place to go, no one to help, nothing to protect us. So our tradition would say the single highest source of happiness is the Dharma. But other traditions would say the single highest source of happiness is their tradition. And we'd all be right? And we'd all be wrong. But regardless, we see that the things that society goes to for pleasure are things that once we understand about karma and its consequences, are things that will come back to us as unpleasant, right? Like competitive sports events. Not that there's anything wrong with competition, but the way it's gone about, right, is we support our team against the other team. And we don't just rah our team, we point out what's bad about the other team, even if the other team is better than ours. We find something that's wrong with it and point it out to aggrandize our team. And we're expected to do that. And it's weird if we don't do that. And it's ill will, wrong view, right? Jealousy, all happening in the space of entertainment. We go to movies that are violent. Well, because the hero always wins in the end. Yeah, but a hero that wins, that destroys property and people and lives, is that really winning? No, we let stuff be imprinted into our minds, thinking, oh, it's all okay. That's what we do. And we're perpetuating our samsaric world in doing so. The things we go to for entertainment are perpetuating suffering because of past wrong view. Now that we have more accurate view, it's totally up to our own decision the extent to which we want to change our behavior. Okay? And we have other people to consider in life. So we can't just say, throw the TV out, no more movies, right? Cultures, religious traditions have tried to do that, and they aren't sustainable, because if we don't replace them with some other form of entertainment that does bring happiness, we just end up all work and no play, and that's not functional either. So it takes a skillful self-discipline, not imposing it on others, but rather using it to show by example and willing to share when others ask. How did you do that? How did you change, right, your circumstances so amazingly? I'll tell you, sit down. So we have these 10 non-virtues. Now we have more insight into why they're called non-virtues. because of the suffering that they are the cause of. And then it's our decision how to change our behavior accordingly. And it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to stop killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. It's another to take a vow to commit to stopping those things. But the 10 themselves are so ubiquitous, we can't actually uphold our pledge to stop killing. So when we take the vow, we make a pledge to stop killing within a arena in which we actually can. Right? As lay people, we take, I will avoid killing a human and a human fetus. Like we can be pretty sure that through the course of our lifetime, we can avoid doing those two things. Maybe killing a human might happen by accident. Maybe someday we get in the position where a parent needs to have life support being stopped. And then we're in a bit of a conundrum. But for the most part, we can keep those vows. We take vows of behaviors that we are pretty sure we can keep. That's the whole point about keeping vows. It's not to struggle, it's to increase the power of the goodness that we do by not doing those deeds. So if we're already not doing them, let's get extra credit by taking a vow of not doing them. What are we not doing? Killing a human or human fetus, stealing anything of value, committing adultery, lying about our spiritual practice, intoxicating our mind, or contributing to the intoxication of someone else's mind. Maybe the hardest one to avoid in our society because of societal pressure, but we can do it, right? And our tradition says, don't take all 5 until you are willing to try to keep all 5, right? Not mix and match. Okay. So we can use this information in a really clearly calculated method if we use the database and then look at our life honestly and say, what do I like about my life? And how do I perpetuate that? And what do I not like about it? And what do I do to stop perpetuating that and create the opposite instead? So the system would, so a tool that I offer is to sit down with yourself at some point and think of 3 pleasant things about yourself and your world. So one pleasant thing about yourself, either your body or your personality or your behavior, one thing that you like. Second is one thing about the others around you that you like. And one thing in your immediate environment that you like. Right, so you've got these 3 things. Make another list. 3 things you don't like. One thing you don't like about yourself. One thing you don't like about the people around you. And one thing you don't like about your environment. Now, what you're going to do is those 3 things that you like, think about and write down, how do I perpetuate that? This quality in myself of honesty, how do I perpetuate my honesty? I rejoice in past honesty. I rejoice in other people's honesty. And be aware, stay keenly aware of situations where I'm fudging the truth a little bit or exaggerating, and work a little harder to clearly convey what I'm meaning to convey. I see others around me as being so generous, right? How do I perpetuate others around me as generous? Right? I contribute too. I share in that generosity. I give back. Right? Make your determination to do that. What do I like in my world? Where did it come from? Which of those 10 non-deeds opposites is it probably coming from? And where can I do more of that? Then similarly with the 3 negatives, what deeds made this happen? What would be the antidote? What would be the opposite? Where can I do that opposite? Where have I already done that opposite? Rejoice. Where can I do the opposite more? So that I can see this negativity in me shift. Same for the people around. Same for the outer world. You may find that there's a recurring theme amongst these 6 different pieces you're going to look at. They may be all coming from different karmic seeds. Maybe 2 of them are similar, right? You'll see the pattern. And then you plan out a you who's going to live according to these 3 antidotes for the negative and these 3 perpetuations for the positive. Imagine a you going through your day, being that already, so that then when you get out into your day, you can try it on for size. Right? Fantasize about being that way, then go try. We'll succeed and we'll fail, and that's fine. Then every now and then you come back and look at your list again. And you decide, okay, that was fun. Let's do 3 more on each and see what else I can work on. It becomes like a game, a tool that we have for making these changes. We can fly by the seat of our pants any given day, what happens, and do our 4 powers and then apply our 4 steps. Or we can go at it in this very sequential developmental way. It's up to you, right? How you want to use it. But as we learn the method, then that method becomes a way of life. And you're constantly working in the antidote for negative things and the rejoiceables for the positive things, so that we're learning how to be in our moment of experience, able to choose a response instead of automatic pilot our response the way we have been. And our automatic pilot has the stains of all these 10 non-virtues from the past, especially the wrong view. And we're wanting to get off that automatic pilot so that we're planting our seeds, right, with correct view, which includes that little piece of the emptiness factor that we're not even focused on so much. So Geshe Michael had said, forget shamatha, forget vipassana right now. Get in there and clean up our seeds and purify, make merit for a while, really conscientiously. And that will shift our ability to make progress on our meditation cushion, which is what's necessary to make progress towards the nirvana or Buddhahood, which is why we started our study into Vinaya in the first place. Right? So it's all in preparation for making this transformation of ourselves and our world. Ta-da! So thank you for the extra time. My bank account is now back to 0. And that's fine. We used it where it was important. This is a really important class for your spiritual career. So use it, please. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class. We've learned a lot that we will use to help them in that deep and ultimate way someday. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. Okay, thank you, everybody. Please stay.
Thank you, teacher.
Have fun in Beijing.
All right.